In a moment, it's going to be Elona Woods speaking with Grounded in Nature. Elona is an author. Her book is on the speaker's table over there. But just before I introduce Elona, okay, should we make our way back to our seats so we can hear Elona speak? That'd be great. Should have been a school teacher with a whip, Miss Whiplash. Right. I can use the long tongs. I used to school horses. I used to do dressage. Three day renting with the long tongs. That's where I get my competitive nature from. Okay then, so we'll make our way back to the seats. And I'd just like to say that this year I had the good grace to work with Melissa Tittle. She was the original producer of Ancient Aliens and then left when it got a bit too much, shall we say. And she's gone on to look about how we can raise our DNA frequencies. And her first film is called Code 12. It's available on Amazon. I highly recommend it. I kick it off with Billy Carson. And some of you may have heard of Billy Carson here. Yeah, where we kick the whole thing off. And in fact, it was my idea about how Melissa should start. So I'm the very first person on it. But this year was the second sequel to Code 12. Okay, so Melissa is a top producer. She's a Hollywood producer in the UK. She gets in touch with English Heritage, yeah, and says, I want to film, I want to do this, I want to do that. And you've got to tick all of these boxes. And 7K later, they're thinking about doing an hour filming. I'm in on the feed now, because they want to know who's the cameraman, who's this, who's that. And that's standard. I've filmed there many times. Last year, I had the privilege of being alone in Stonehenge for 30 minutes by myself because the team gave it to me. But here's the thing. I'm in the feed now, okay? And they said in the email, they didn't address my name, is she going to do any dowsing? Is she going to show any of her so-called healing points? What will she be doing? And if she does douse, we refuse her to be filmed. Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, they're trying to repress my information about the secret history of Stonehenge. What muppets? Worldwide, what muppets? Yeah, what muppets? Because they're muppets because I just pointed. I don't need a dowsing rod. Yeah, just point. So I thought that was pointless, excuse the pun. But we are going to have to fight for our sites. Yeah, we are, because they're cordoning off. They will stop people over 4 entering Avebury. You're supposed to have a permit. Yeah, I refuse to have a permit, okay? Because it's no criminal offence to be there. I've looked at the law, yeah? One of my family's a barrister. He always said he was a barrister to get my family out of trouble. So he's a barrister, and he's told me all of the law about it. But yeah, so, you know, we might be called to do something in the future together. But without further ado, Elona. I've known Elona. Yay, Elona! Elona Woods! Beautiful, intelligent, intuitive. And I'm going to let Elona introduce herself. I've known Elona for many years, and we've shared friends and things like that, haven't we? So we've been linked for many, many years now. And I've always respected Elona's work, how she sees nature, how she works, how she knows medicine about it as well. So we're in really good hands with Elona Woods. Take it away, Elona.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Maria. So I'm Elona and I wear many hats. One as a homeopath, as an author, astrologer. Oh, sorry. Do you need it closer? Yeah, is that better? Sorry, I'm more softly spoken. So I work in lots of different areas and fields of working. And today I wanted to kind of bring it back to where we are now, you know, to the center, because I think so many people are so distracted. They are disconnected is another word that I would use, you know, within the digital diaspora. And really, there's so much magic in just being. Okay, so on that note, without further ado, here we go. So the main thing that I wanted to speak about. So it's lovely to meet you all today, and thank you for coming. It's lovely to meet you all. Now, the Earth is a complex place at the moment. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and we're in a time of information right now. There's so much information everywhere you look, and we're in a time where darkness can maybe thrive, but then so can the light, and we can't know one without the other. So we always have to have a balance, and it really depends on where you are within yourself. But for me, it's all about finding the center. And I'm here to focus on the benefits of what grounding in nature looks like. And all of us will have different ways. We're not all going to do things the same way because we're all different people. Yeah. So small acts can change a landscape environmentally. You know, it can change you internally. We've also got socially, but every single person in this room is a piece of the puzzle. It's not left to just one person. It's down to all of us to be able to change things and do things in a really grounded way. Now, I'm going to take it back to the most fundamental thing. What does it mean to be human? Now, we're complex beings, okay? We have biology, we've got consciousness, we've got emotions and social connection. We also experience life through thoughts and feelings, actions, creating, loving, and suffering. It all brings us together. And most importantly, striving for meaning. All of us here really have a purpose, and we know it deep within ourselves. It's just a lot of us don't always know what that is. And sometimes being lost is how you find yourself. And we also have the gift of imagination. Now, some say that as a species that we're actually flawed because we live with contradictions. For instance, most fear death, yet we long for purpose. And another contradiction is the choices and taking responsibility for how we shape our realities by the things that we do, the way that we live, how we interact with others, how we interact with nature. We are nature. Now, we've got fundamental needs, every single one of us. We have physiological needs, food, water, oxygen, sleep and shelter. And a must for these are all things we need for survival. And you'll see this throughout all of the cultures, ancient cultures. It's not really any different. It's just that things have changed in our now. We need safety and security. So that would be around health, financial security, stable environment, and protection from harm. But most in our current era do not have this. So it takes them away from the center. We are living in a world now where we're constantly being asked to do, but not be. And it's a struggle. And you can see this in the younger generations where they really struggling with mental health. You see it in the older generation where I feel getting older is a rite of passage. It's a really beautiful thing to grow with wisdom and see different things throughout the ages. But I find that a lot of our older generation are forgotten about. And for me, they are the living libraries. You know, they're the ones that really hold the wisdom. And you see it in families that are struggling just to hold everything together and really work through things. Now, we have social needs. And I love events like this where all these different wonderful people come together because everyone's got their own little pot of magic. And when we bring it together in a room like this, we're raising the vibration of the land. And that's where the magic is. And I can't wait to go on the talk and the walk later, you know, just to see what we can do together as a small tribe of today, of this now. The other thing as well is that at one point in history, we lived in smaller communities. And this is why things worked, simply because we were all kind of on the same page. And you see the different communities in different areas of the world, you know, globally. And so we had Nana speaking about the Mayans. We've also got this in the Aboriginal tribes, in even on this land, this very beautiful sacred land, Albion, where we have people at one point that all work together. And I was completely blown away by the mysteries, you know, of Stonehenge, because it really brings it back to that there's so much on this land that we actually don't know, and it's magical. The other thing that we need is to feel loved and to feel respected, and also as well feeling valued in the work that we're doing, you know, and being able to give back to other people, you know. So, and it's being grateful for that as well as a person, as an individual. And in receiving, it's also lovely to give back, you know, to just tell another person that thank you for everything that you've done, you know, within my existence, in my world. Now, who's been to community events and just felt absolutely magical after? You just do, don't you? You just, there's something within you and you just feel that, you know, I'm going home now and I feel completely full. But why can we not hold these moments of fulfillment? Why are we unable to, after we've been here, like 4 days in, we're kind of back into that cog, you know, of being back in the matrix, as some would say, of working and doing. It's because man is the only creature that refuses to be what he is. Yeah? Great Albert Camus. Sorry about the cigarette. It was the only picture that I could find here. Okay, so we have witnessed changes throughout the ages, changes on the earth from agriculture to the technological age. We've had the industrial age. We've gone through so many different things, but yet there's no huge transformation in man. In fact, from the work that Maria's done and that Nan's done and Thomas Sheridan, we've actually gone backwards. You know, they did some really wonderful things. Look at the buildings that these people have built. Have you seen yours in your local town centre? They're hardly uplifting, are they? You know, the street lamps as well. They're not pretty anymore. We really, you know, we had art. We were inspired through visualization, and now everything's so grey and dull. I want happy again. You know, it's working towards that. Now, one thing that's missing is self-actualization. And I feel that this is one of the last steps. Maybe there's more, I don't know. But this is something that we can work towards to really come back to the center of who we truly are. And what is self-actualization? It's reaching one's full potential. And it's really, for me, the physical as well as the spiritual, because every single person in this room can feel that there's more to themselves. We'll just all feel it in different ways. And we'll access that through dreams. Sometimes it's gut feelings. Sometimes people sense things. They have other sensory perceptions, which is really, really wonderful. We've also got this comes, through personal growth, creativity. It's fulfilling your talents and just feeling inspired. Those are my most favorite parts. But there's always the other balanced side of that is feeling uninspired. And both are necessary to find the center. Okay? Now, also as well, it's living in alignment with true values and passion. And at one point in time, as Nan said earlier, living in this way was natural law. You know, you had your birth charts. They would know exactly what it was that you were here to do, and you would do it. There was no questions about it. And I think that one of the biggest problems that we have in our current era is choice. And it's not to say that back then you would not have had that, but it is to say that on some levels, your energy system would have been born into a space where you would know really what you were born here to do. And in African cultures, before a baby is born, the parent speaks to the soul of the baby and asks the baby, why are you coming here? What are you coming to do? And who were you before in that lifetime, in other lifetimes? And what is it that you need to achieve in this lifetime? And so that baby would be born with a purpose, but it also knew its purpose. You know, so it does make a difference, because a lot of us in our current era, we don't have that. So we're born blind and all the keys are on the floor, but we are the lock to those keys. We can use those keys to unlock ourselves, but again, it comes from within. So part of this nature has been blocked. And which part is that? It's becoming one with the transcendental self. And It is the idea that there's another level of us that goes beyond the physical aspect of self. And Kant suggested it's the part of ourselves that organizes and interprets our very existence. We do not directly observe this part, but it allows us to make sense of the world, and it goes beyond the ego into a greater reality. How many of you have been to places that you go there, for instance, Stonehenge or, Chichen Itza, and you can just feel something more? You know, that you beyond the you. And you can see that in artwork. You can feel that in books. You can see it, feel it in music when you're really listening to that. When I read books, I thought, I think to myself, this is real magical. There were some parts in your book and I thought, okay, Maria, that's the you beyond the you, isn't it? You tapped into something greater here and I'm feeling that. So that was really, really wonderful. And then one way of learning is becoming grounded in nature. Some of you might be photographers, artists, work with herbs, it doesn't matter. The keys to all of this is find your way. Yeah, this is just where we're at with this at the moment. And let's go, we've looked at human needs. What is nature? And nature is what hasn't been created by man. So we're looking at weather, water, the landscapes, the mountains, all of these different things that sit there. It's the air that we breathe. And the other thing about nature that helps us to remind us to reground is it's always in cycles. Nature has cycles and we've come out of rhythm with those cycles. And it's about coming back to that in the best way that we can. Now, what do humans have in common with other mammals? They have basic biological functions. Saying we all need food and we need water. We live in the tribal element. We also have parental care, guardianship. Though having teenagers, I do understand why some animals eat their young, okay? I really do. Hard work. And we also, what do humans have in, connection with other humans? We are 99.9% the same regardless of where we come from in this world. Regardless of our color, our belief systems, we're more or less the same. It's just that a lot of different things have been put in place to divide us. And for me, it's just, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I don't even want to go there. You've seen it for what it is. This is a day really where we reground and we bring it back to what's important. And that's just coming back tribally and centrally, okay? So then we have emotions, we're social creatures, and we have communication. What's changed? A lot's been compromised. So it's like the air, the food, the water. The family system has changed dramatically. Coming from a background of Caribbean people, we never really had that central family unit because some were back home and others were here. And you know what I learned from English people? How to create that unit. And I will always be really, really grateful for that. Because I find that here there is a real grounding element of family life with people where they love their children and they do things in such a wonderful way. And we have moved away from that. But being a home-ed mum, I'm seeing so many parents that are coming back to that, and that community is growing. And it's about the children really being able to follow their gnosis, So even though it's changed, I feel that we're coming back full circle where people are like, you know what, I've tried that. It's not that much fun. So let's go back to the way that it was. And then we've got contradictory social behaviors. Do you know people don't feel safe expressing their emotions? They feel really quite scared to say what it is that they feel. But do you know what's even harder? Holding that in. Because you carry it around with you like a bag, and then you kind of taint the next person because you haven't fixed the real problem. And for me, really, it's about going back and unpicking all of that in order to be able to just feel lighter within yourself and meet others that are lighter too, because it's all about reflections. Now, here, the other thing as well with animals is that they have a different level of cognitive function to humans. And it is believed the part that is different between us that, processes a higher order of cognitive function is the prefrontal cortex. The animals don't really have that. And Steiner believed as well that with animals, that they were more in alignment with the celestial, there was a celestial connection with them, and they're more in alignment with the astral realms. And you'll see this. Do you remember the tsunami where the animals knew that something was going to go terribly wrong and they went to higher land? The humans were still in the sea. You know, it's wild that we've lost that part of things. And then we have forethought and planning, and so many people plan so many different things. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, you know? And then animals live in the moment. They're in the present. And I like cats. You know, they're strange creatures, but they live in the now, even dogs. I spoke to somebody the other day and he felt an energy that was a bit strange in his home, and his dog wouldn't go in the house. So he knew it was time to do a house clearing, you know? So they're really great guides and markers of what it is that actually needs to be done. And then the other thing as well with this is that animals live in the cycle still. They still live within that cyclic cycle. You see birds migrating when it gets cold, and sometimes I wish I was a bird. You read more about this within myths and legends. You can feel it, and we could all read myths and legends, but all of us would get different stories from this. And this is a picture from Prometheus, the legend Prometheus. I had Hesiod in Theogony, and Prometheus means forethought, and Epimetheus means hindsight. So it's looking forwards and looking backwards. But if we're in the now, we're able to do a lot more than just that. And humans live in the future. They spend a lot of time thinking that way. And they also spend a lot of time looking backwards, but they're rarely in the now. So again, I've come back to living in smaller communities and coming back to Nan's talk where she was speaking about people knowing exactly what it was that they were meant to be doing. In Julius's Evolver's book, Revolt Against the Modern World, and thank you, Thomas Sheridan, for this one. This book is sensational. The way that he speaks about true kings. Kings didn't choose themselves, just like shamans didn't back then. They were chosen. Yeah, for what it was that they were able to do. They weren't just leaders. If somebody was sick within the tribe, that king was a healer as well. He knew different ways to work with the people within that tribe and within that village. And now we've got something that's more, is so disconnected from that now. But he had to earn that right. And he was chosen by the people. And people had their jobs. They didn't do it with complaints. If you were a butler, then you did it with total intention and awareness to be the highest butler that you could ever be. They didn't complain about what they had to do. They brought in that internal compass and awareness that I'm physically doing something, but I'm connected to something greater than myself. And this book's really good for that. But what he's saying here really is that the farmers, the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents, or the priest or priestess, everything had an order. And we've come out of that. And he speaks about the gateway to access the transcendental self, which I really love. Now, when the spirit came out of alignment with nature, we've got loads of disease states on the planet right now. There are so many different disease states, and it's an individual one, but it's also globally. You can see the sickness in different areas. Look at Haiti, for instance. That is one sick country. When you have a look at the way that once beautiful country and the people are living. And it's just not okay. It really isn't okay. And then diseased states at one point, if we come back to the transcendental cell, and humans and diseases, they all had a language. It was all one thing. So if something was sick within a shamanic tribe, they would try and figure out what it was on a vibrational level that was pulling you out of your center. And you had to fix it to come back into it. And they didn't have diagnosis systems back then at all. And really, when you think about it, since we've moved away from the aspects of the stars, people have become more sick. And in Arthur Firstenberg's book, The Invisible Rainbow, he speaks about this. He says that we are nature. So we need to encompass all different parts of that. So then here, coming out of alignment with nature. So pepper. I'm a herbalist, so I love working with herbs and weird and wonderful things. So if you see me in your local area picking stuff with scissors, please mind your business, okay? It's for the greater good. This really is. So when people were living in more natural habitats within the villages, if somebody was sick, you would know where to go to collect a herb. You know, you'd go and get some yarrow, or it could be that you needed a bit of arnica. But then we had urbanization. And when people went into the kind of industrial and they moved to the towns, medicine changed as well. And that part of ourselves has been switched off. That would know to go and get something. And this was innate knowledge that was passed down from those that came before us. And people wanted quicker healthcare solutions. And I've bought Culpepper's book. I love this book because he'll say to you to go to the river and go and pick this herb. Go and get this one if you need, you know, if you've got a headache. He's mapped out everywhere where you can go and get things. And do you know what? Most of them have either housing estates on them or work buildings. We've lost that part of our connection there because it's all been developed over, even though humans really are underdeveloped. And it's understandable. If you're working in a faster paced moment, the one thing that you do want to do on a bigger level is that you really want to, on some level, have convenience. You really do. But the thing is with this convenience has become more of an inconvenience for humans because the price that we've paid for convenience is less convenience than the original convenience itself. Yeah? So really, light has turned us away from circadian rhythms. We slept a lot earlier before. We slept for hours as well. And we woke when the sun rose. Google has taken us away from our intuition. And the dopamine Ds, I call them, that are on the TikToks, okay, that can't feel, they're not allowed to. They don't want to feel because they don't have time to feel. It's taken them away from true healing and true presence and connection. And as again, I said this earlier, that in the Dogon tribe, synthetic methods and foods hold little to no life force. They are not a giver of health, but a taker of life. And we have switched off that inherent knowledge of knowing, don't eat that mushroom, it's poisonous, or take that one because you'll meet God, okay? We've, you know, literally lost that part. Now when we go to the doctors, we get hooked up to a machine or they have a look at us and see what's going on. And we then find out what's wrong with us. But in ancient times, they used medical astrology. This is how things were diagnosed. So we'd look in your first house, your sixth house, maybe the 12th, and just have a look. And the other thing that they would do is that within those houses, whatever planets were sat there, you would then get those herbs throughout your life because you would know how to use them and you would work with that. And this is the encyclopedia of medical astrology. Do you know there's a chapter in there for ugliness? And he even gives you herbs for that. I thought, these people are mean, aren't they? And astrology, we've had the Mayan calendar, we've got the calendars here. They were used for timekeeping, agricultural purposes, festivals. We've got Vedic and Egyptian cultures, but many believed that the celestial events were messengers from the gods. There was rituals. And the reason why they did this is because they believed that they were connecting to something much bigger. It's something we've been closed off, but they were connecting to something much bigger. And it was used in politics, but I still believe it is. It's just that we don't have the know. And leadership, divination purposes, interpreting a person's individual. And that could have been more Hellenistic astrology in these countries over here. And yeah, Hellenistic and Vedic. And you would navigate. There was a navigation purpose as well that comes there, especially before the compass. And then humans had a sacred language and the cosmos, we were one. And at some point between the 16 and the 1700s, astronomy was separated from astrology and it was termed a pseudoscience. And this is where it all kind of started to go a bit wrong. You know, pseudo in ancient Greek meaning false. Now we've got Paracelsus, and he was a Swiss physician when it came down to medicine from the 16th century. And he was interesting. He held unconventional beliefs about the nature of the human body and its connection to the stars. And he created a system called the Great Harmony. Now, he was so good at many things, but do you know what he was best at? Drinking. Yeah, if drinking was a sport, he was gold, silver, and bronze. And he was really kind. He's a very, very kind man. The problem is he didn't wash. So he would buy all these new fine garbs and wear, hand his clothes to the people that needed them, the poor people, but they smelt so bad, it was both endearing and insulting. So they said, no, thank you. You smell like last Friday and yonder. We'll leave these here. So they never took his clothes. But he was an occultist and he worked with, I think it was the German Rosicrucian, and he was into Hermeticism and so many different things. So definitely an interesting one. And he thought he was better than everybody else as well. He really did, especially Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna. And he was of the Islamic Golden Age. And I wonder, like, when I have a look at his work, it is profound. The way that he describes the difference between the spirit and the soul, and just the way that things work within the human body, it really coincides with a lot of Egyptian, Mayan, African cosmogony, all of the rest of it. And it's mind-blowing. He was the first one as well in the Neptune in Pisces era to quarantine. And then Neptune in Pisces happened again. And what did we go into? Quarantine. So he's a really interesting guy. And he worked with astronomy, alchemy, geography, geology, psychology, theology. I could go on in GGG, okay? But he was an absolute genius and a poet. And what he says is that his psychology requires that the connection between the body and soul to be strong enough to ensure a soul's individuation, but weak enough to allow for its immortality. And really, a lot of us now are they're trying to make us the same as everybody else. I can't be you better than you can, yeah? And you can't be me better than I can. So it's moving forwards from that point. And astrology was used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, and Ayurveda too. And I speak a lot more about this in my book and different ways in which these things can be used. Now, coming back to medicine had a language, we've got here, the next one that I will go towards, is that the medicines were passed down ceremonially. So you'd have fires, they would speak to the spirits, they would do whatever they needed to find out new ways of being able to heal. I will speak about homeopathy, and Nan, again, is a homeopath as well. And I'm not going to go too much into it. All I want to look at is the 5 miasms that are generational that affect the population at the moment, okay? So his work is a blend of Hermeticism, Greek, and ancient Egyptian. Do you know why I liked him? Number one, because he was an Aries. And number two, because he did not give a damn about the systems in this place. Neither did Paracelsus. They both gave it the middle finger and just said, you know what, this doesn't work for me, and just went off and went a bit mad and created systems that actually worked really, really well. So I really, really love his work. And from Hermeticism, like yours like, is his thing. And again, when you get the right homeopathic remedy and you work with things, you can really touch the transcendental. And there's over 3,600 remedies, but we'll talk about the ones that, you know, are blocking generations, also known as miasms. And these miasms are passed down from parent to child, child to grandchild, and it keeps on going until we do the work to clear that. And we're doing it now. At these kind of events that we have now, we're talking about old things in old ways. And people are more moving towards that. Do you know why? Because it feels good. You know, wherever this is going, it doesn't feel so great. And then the first one that I will have a look at is Sora. And you see this in third world countries where people have the itch to do better. And some people just can't because it's so poverty stricken and they are unable to move forwards because of environmental factors. But the positive characteristics is the belief that you can live abundantly regardless of wherever you are. They believe in themselves and they're able to evolve even when in a difficult environment. They're able to handle stress in a balanced manner and do not run away or lose their temper. But the negative feelings are poverty consciousness and fear of not having enough, feeling forsaken, constant anxiety, depression, and they feel like they're a born loser. People with this normally have asthma or hay fever, repeated episodes of tonsillitis. These disease states manifest in physical formats, in physical ways. And Sora is the most oldest. You see it in lots of books. The Hindus believe that it was a disease that was just a curse, really. And it's been deforming and torturing the nations for thousands of years. And it is in ancient civilizations. You see skin problems in ancient civilizations as well. And on a global level, this can be likened to third world countries. Suppressed gonorrhea. Oh, this one. Do you know this has increased 50% since 2022? It's gone up. And the positive characteristics is the balance between spirituality and secular life. So it's doing the work, the inner work, but also at the same time, doing the physical work as well. They've got great decision making, positive awareness, balance of giving and receiving. They are able to hold space for self as much as they are for others. And the synchronicities are off the charts. Negative characteristics. Teetotal Monday to Friday, debauchery Friday to Sunday, and repeat, okay? And it could be excess of drugs, alcohol, sex, it doesn't matter. And then we've got here with this, they love esoteric knowledge, but without a balance. And it's the seeker that's down endless rabbit holes that lead absolutely nowhere. Yeah, and they're ungrounded and ended up being in a fantasy. They do not trust their intuition, so they're not sure what to believe. And it's about bringing that back. And this one was Aphrodite's disease state, I think it was, within myths and legends. And what they're saying is that with ungrounded love and ungrounded sex, that there was afflictions to that because it wasn't grounded in nature. It wasn't done in the right way. And then this one's all overgrowth. So it's warts, cysts, polyps, fibroids, moles, yellow, thick, you know, that kid that's got the real thick green bogey. Yeah, he needs a remedy, that one. And this could be likened to places like Amsterdam. And Hippocrates mentioned this one. And this one's contacted through sexual conduct. You've got the tubercular one. Do you know what? Frederick Chopin, and if I've said it wrong, please forgive me, the musician, he was very tubercular. These are the dreamers, the artists, the visionaries, and they love life, but they live it in their own bubble. And this remedy shows you where you're wasting your creative expression. When I took this remedy, I finished writing my book. It was brutal, it was mean. It said, finish it. So I did, okay? And it really took me there. And I like to compare this to the positive aspects of Aquarians. You know, the dreamers, they want to involve everybody, come to my party. This is the tuberculinum one. And they can be hyperactive, but they're system busters. They think outside the box. But the negative characteristics are people that are deeply dissatisfied. And you've got those ones in the family. Oh, where's Phil gone? Yeah, he's in Australia. But I thought he was in India. Yeah. Oh, is he still with Selena? No, he's not actually. He's now with somebody called, you know, Maria. Yeah, they're all over the place. They don't keep themselves still. And they've got a desire. They've got a constant need for travel all the time. They fear commitment, like food though, and they have a hopeless feeling. But they may be reckless, you know, with changing moods. And they can have problems with skin, lymph nodes, respiratory. But this has been passed down from ancestors that had to keep moving around. You know, like the Irish, you've got the African, you've got Asia, Europe. They have similar situations to Sora, but the difference is that Sora is dead end, Serenum are disconnected. Then you've got the Cancer miasm. We all know somebody that gives their last and puts themselves last. And they just keep giving and giving and giving. They've been through stuff. Some of these people that have to overgive, maybe single parents, or it could be a giver looking after a parent. You know, they can't leave that situation, but they have to surrender that part of themselves that wants to do more. And the positive characteristics of this remedy is in search of the miraculous. This is where you go with this one. It's the soul retrieval remedy. It's seeking their life purpose. It's learning holistic practices that work with their energy system. So for instance, you could easily be Ayurveda, it could be herbs, but I could be homeopathy and sound healing. But it's learning what works for you and bringing it home. And this one is the person that no longer thinks for themselves. It doesn't matter what you say to them, it's hopeless. They're unwilling to accept change. Even though that man treats me really badly, I'm going to stay with him because it's all I know. They give to everybody else. They've lost their sense of self and they put themselves last. They've lost their sense of creativity, and these are dancers. They love dancing. They love the moon, but they don't look at it anymore. They overextend themselves. And on a global level, many have lost their voice in the face of tyranny, okay? And even though they do not agree with where the world is heading, they still go that way because they've lost their voice. We don't need to do that. That's not fun, okay? Then we've got the syphilitic miasm. Syphilitic, sorry. More people have this than have been diagnosed. And this remedy, or this miasm really, is in alignment with accessing the inner genius. When I took this, I was able to access numbers and, I don't know, I was just able to access certain parts of myself that I didn't even know existed. Didn't take it for long now, I couldn't stay there. And then they have a fantastic function in mind. They're great writers, speakers, musicians, artists. They are here on a macrocosmic level to resolve karma on a global level. That's their whole thing, okay? Some of them lose the way though. So the mental emotional picture of these types of people are destructive. They can destroy relationships. They may have narcissistic traits. You've all got that one in the family. That is just a nightmare. Oh, it's just the way he is. He's never going to change. But wherever he goes, there's chaos. Okay. And it's the same with the people that may be running things here. Wherever they go, there's chaos. They have OCD. They can have problems with the central nervous system. And people that have this are people like Vincent van Gogh or Van Gogh, whatever it is that you call him. He was incredible, but he chopped off his ear. You know, there's certain things that sit there that is just destructive. You've also got people like Freddie Mercury as well. I love that guy. His music is just phenomenal. It really touches something within, but there was also a kind of self-destruct, you know, a bit of out of control there. And then you've got Friedrich Nietzsche. Hitler was thought to have had syphilis as well. There's a lot of people in certain positions of power whose whole family have got that. And it's a lot. And then Martin Miles' books. This one was called the Hydra's disease, actually, because once it goes into the system, you don't even know that it's there. And just when you think that you've got it, it changes itself and it becomes alive in a different way. So yeah, this is called the Hydra's disease. And he says that it represents, you know, the most darkness within humanity has vested upon itself. It is negativity incarnate, and evil forces feed upon its manifestation. And it weaves its tentacles like a hydra within the human body, but it also does that within society. And on a global level, this equates to war, genocide, division. It's just not fun at all. The thing is with this, we can change this. It doesn't need to be stuck. Now, here's Thomas More, and I don't know if you know, or have ever heard of him. He was actually a druid. And he was head druid, but also a homeopath. He was odd, but you know what? All homeopaths are a bit odd. I'll own it, okay? We're all a bit crackers. And really and truthfully with him, he was all about bringing it back to center and working within that and just giving people remedies or helping them. And he'd take them to a certain point and then he'd be like, you're on your own. And this is what I feel that true healing is on a level, is knowing your own systems and then knowing when to work with yourself and then bringing it back home again. Others were Charles Dickens, William Thackeray. Bravery never goes out of fashion is one of his sayings, and I really like that because it doesn't. And the bravery sits within each and every single one of you in your own way. And Benjamin Disraeli and Pope Pius as well, but he went a bit elitist with things. I'm not going to go too much into that again, but yeah, he had his interests in certain things that sit there. W.B. Yeats, the playwright, he also used homeopathy. Okay, and what he said is that the world is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. And this is why going to these kind of events and going to these places, I believe they are alive. And when you go there, it wakes up something that is dormant within you. And this is all that they were trying to say. One thing that we can do to become grounded is being stewards in nature, being stewards of the land. You know, really farmers, for me, they're the best people to know. I get a lot of my food from farmers. And do you know what else is great with them? The gossip. They will tell you what is going on at farm 57, what has happened with their land. The fox ate the chickens, all sorts of different things. And don't get their eggs because they're actually from Asda. Okay, they will tell you all the lowdown of things here. And really and truthfully, it's working again with the ancient mysteries. And I think that on this land that we're on now, we don't have enough credit for what is here. And this is why it's important to work with people like Maria to find out where the yin lines are within your gardens. Find out where they are within the parks. Go and sit there, you know, and then others will come and that comes there. And then you've got shamans who access the many mysteries crossing time and space, working with the plants, sacred singing and drumming. They would have done this ages ago. The television is so boring now. It's just terribly boring. I'd rather be around people and have natural comedy, you know, instead of sitting on my phone. And it's understanding the cycles and rhythms. I've picked most of what I can for the year now. All that's left is to wait for the wild garlic to come back out because I want some scones. Yeah, so it's knowing and understanding that food is medicine and it's working with that as much as you can. And then the other side of it is, as well, is eating from the land. You know, who made elderberry tincture this year? Has anybody belt? That's what I mean. Who had few flowered garlics? Yeah, I thought they were leeks and I ate them, but they were, I'm alive still, so I'm okay. Okay. And then elderflower, I went out and picked that as well. And when you eat these things off the land, it connects you. I was starting to lose my marbles a bit as well. I kept forgetting things. I'd say to my son, can you pass that thing? And he'd be like, Mum, there's like 9,000 things in the house. Which one do you mean? So what did I take? I took a mushroom blend. It was just a 7 mushroom blend. And all my memories started coming back again, you know? And different things for anxiety. But take it from the land. It really works really, really well. Now, change, reconnecting back to nature. Eat naturally in seasons rhythms. Try and limit synthetic stuff. It's terrible. Sometimes a chicken burger's nice, just not all the time, okay? Stop buying what is sold that's no good for you. Start processing your trauma. Clean up your bodies and take care of yourselves. And we reconnect back to the stars by doing this, and we ground our energy in nature. Rebuilding small tribes like the animals do. Who sits out there and watches squirrel fights? Because it's really funny. It really is. And the crows, when they go after that one cat that is just not leaving them alone. You know, there's real like grounding in that. Set up new habits and rituals, habitual behaviors, and really bring it back. The other thing that I think is important is honoring the ancestors. It really, really is so important. And Neb Naba Lamusa Moredenibig, he's the late Dogon chief, believes like Julius Hivova, if we disconnect from any imposed system and we reconnect back to the old ways, we can start the process of collective healing. And one of the missing components is the ancestors. And I do wonder if, like, you know, like within biblical texts, no judgment or offense for anybody that's with that, but Could purgatory be the missing ancestral realm, where at one point we really connected with them and they were the medium between us and the gods, for instance, you know, and working with that way? The ancestors of the European cultures are rising. You see them now, and they're wearing the old dress, where they're coming together, they're sitting around fires, they are, you know, working with the children. It's wonderful. A lot of the stories were orated, though. They're not found in books. So guess what this means? It's time to go to Mexico with Maria and with Nan, because you will then be able to sit with the people of that land and really work with listening to their stories. And when those stories are explained to you on that land, it wakens something within you. Yeah. So that sits there with that. And then we've also got the growth side of things. So some say to me, can we do exactly the same thing as our ancestors did? And we will all have different opinions. Maybe it's not meant to be this way. We are stewards of a new era. And one of my favorite sayings is, have the wisdom to abandon the values of a time that has passed and pick out the constituents of the future. And environment must be suited to the age of men and their environment. So maybe the part of the journey regrounding in nature is, yes, to reconnect back to the values of old, but in our current era, not living exactly as they did, but to seek what they were seeking. Yeah, and this is where we can really bring it home. And the other things that we can do is just talk to each other. Set up more meetings. It's really working, you know, with ourselves. It's sharing our work and our art, and it's not being afraid to do so either. It's really, really getting ourselves out there and understanding that we are able to be what we were told not to be, because it's within us. It's within every single person here. And that's what works really, really well. And if I was to ask any of you here today, what is it that you do that helps you to stay grounded in nature? What's your favorite thing to do? Anyone? Yeah. Are you good at it? I am getting there. Okay. I've got slug wars. This is what's happening. Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah, sounds healing and walking, you said as well. This is what I mean. There's so many different ways. And do you meet people along the way that you're able to have those conversations with? Because I always end up meeting older people that have stories to tell. And I'm off to the Caribbean to go and sit because we found loads of petroglyphs in my dad's ancestral land. So I'm going over there to find out what they mean. And it's in exactly where he was born. And then I found out that on my mum's and my dad's side of the genetics, that they're both Malian. And it goes back. Yeah. And the other thing as well is when you start reconnecting with your ancestors, I finally got my nan's marriage certificate. They lost it and they've passed away now. And my son's Eli Woods. And I couldn't understand why my name was Woods. And my great grandfather on one side of my dad's side of the family is Eli Barker. And the other one is Robert Woods. And my son is Eli Woods. So I took their surnames took their names without realizing. And once you start really reconnecting with where you've come from, and I speak to the water for this part, because there was so much that I didn't know. So I asked the water, please, can you show me the bits that I can't see? Can you shift with the vibration within me to be able to receive this wisdom? And I went from having one picture on my ancestral altar, and now I have 20. And they go back generations. I've gone back 4 generations and really been able to work with that. So it's these small things that you can work with, especially on a level of the different hermetic ways, if that is your way. And the stronger you go with your wisdom and reading things like Myths and Legends, this is why I asked for Jeremy's name. If we were all to read Myths and Legends, we get something from that book that others don't get, okay? Because it's within us. So Jeremy's telling these wonderful stories about the witch's head and how it led to a location. And that book led him to stones and ancient stone sites. I uncovered syphilis and gonorrhea. I was quite sad. But at the end of the day, it's whatever is within your field is what you will uncover from that. So I would really recommend that you read the myths and legends and go back to that way. And why? Because it is a time outside of a time where before technology. Yeah. So it's just really coming back to the center of things and understanding that the wisdom was always there, but knowledge isn't free. You have to pay attention. Yeah. So really working within yourselves. Now, is there anything that anybody would like to ask me? And here's my book that you can get from Lulu. No? And this is where you can see my YouTube Arcane Mystic channel, which I've also done a interview with Maria on that. Another interesting thing as well is when I went backwards and looked through the ancestral side of things, Maria uncovered in her book about crystals that were being used in skulls in this land. I also uncovered that in Africa. There's so many different similarities, and it is really about moving back towards that way of being, and that people were able to access a different level of consciousness. The other thing as well that they never did is they didn't think so much. They were able to just be in an innate way of doing things and being with things. So again, it's just about finding your way. Another interesting thing as well is I was speaking to a woman. There was 2 of them that had been made redundant from work. And I said to her, one of them, well, it's a home ed thing again, what are you going to do now with all this time and money? And she said, me and my husband are going traveling and we're going to have a really good time. And I said, and what about the other? I said to the other one, what about yourself? Grieving. Oh, sorry for your loss. Oh no, that happened 3 years ago. I just haven't had the time. People haven't had the time. She had to sort her family out, sort the children out, sort the kids out. And it's making the time where you can. And I also understand why they haven't. So there's a lot that we can do. And the true revolution is not going to be through mass in that way. It's mass awakening from within. Yeah. So I would just say to you all today, really and truthfully, to do the best that you can with what you have. The other thing as well is travel as much as you can. Yeah. Slow down, work with meditation, work with music, reconnecting back to the ancestors, reading books. People don't read books anymore, and working with things that way. And yeah, Maria, thank you so much.
You Elona! Thank you, Elona! You're beautiful. Wow. And it's so true. We need to eat off the land. We need to work with the land and the spirits of the past and the spirits of the future alike. Okay, then. So we're going to have a dinner break now. We come back at 2:30, I think. Let me just check. Yeah, we come back at anyone got a... It's folded. There we go. Yeah, 12:30 to 2:30 is the lunch break. This is the plan. Okay, if you want to come to St. Mary's just round the corner with me, we haven't got permission. Okay, we haven't got permission. That is true, because I put out on Facebook a couple of months ago, for those that came on my Knights Templar tour. We got Mark in the house and Liz in the house. And I put it out that we had to meet in Avebury. Okay, that's all I said on Facebook, with a pretty little picture that everyone goes, oh, that's nice, like. So the vicar of Avebury instantly got onto my Facebook within, no joking, like 20 seconds. Yeah, I thought, blimey, haven't you got a sermon to do? And he said, you haven't got permission to go to any church in Avebury. Maria Wheatley, capital letters, all capital letters, refund everybody. Yeah, on my Facebook. Now, some other people now writing, who do you think you are? So out of kindness, I thought, I'm not going to call a jihad. I'm just going to delete your post. Yeah, so I deleted it, yeah. He must have within seconds realised I deleted his post, goes on to Messenger and starts hassling me, yeah. Why didn't you go for permission? And I left it for a little while because I thought, I don't bite back emotionally. I let it all settle. I just bang the wall or something. And then I said, had you asked me where I was going, I'm not planning to go to Avebury. Yeah, I wasn't, did we, Mark? We went to some fantastic Knights Templar places, million miles away. We just needed somewhere to park a lot of cars. That was the plan. So he thinks he owns this church. So I've looked into the law. Trespassing is a civil offence. It's not a criminal offence. You can't be taken to court in this land at this current law with a trespass. But you should ask to be, if they ask you to leave, you should go. Yeah? So, round about 1 o'clock, so everyone has time to have a cup of tea and things, I will start to walk over to St. Mary's, and those that want to see the different PowerPoints and the different energies there, we'll have a look at that. I belong to a Master Dowser society, and some people say to me, Maria, why didn't you tell us that time? Why didn't you tell us this time? Why didn't you tell us? We are under a kind of directive to know about timing. When people are going to listen to that. If I say certain things 10 years ago, nobody would have listened. Do you see? So we have this major plan of really releasing a lot within the next 5 years. That is going to be astounding. Okay? So we're going to go there at 1 o'clock for those that do want to go. And in the meantime, have a cup of tea, have a chill out. Then as soon as you've experienced it, you can come back and have something to eat or have your own time here or wherever you want to go, providing you can get out of that bloody car park. Okay, then, so we resume at 2:30, over the road at 1 o'clock, okay? Thank you all. Thank you for the morning.